Hope everybody's had a great week. It's been an interesting week. I'll give you some updates here. First of all, I want to just thank those of you who came by the house and made food. It was so kind, so generous, and it just meant the world to us. It was amazing how delicious, and we're just very appreciative for what you've done. I did a lot of resting this past week. We also did, I have numerous doctor appointments and so forth, even scheduled for this next week. So I ask that you be in prayer for those, but it's going to be a great time. And, you know, yesterday I spent several hours. I got 5 MRIs done yesterday. And so that was, that was intense, and I did it with no breaks. And so it drained me pretty good. And but I've got great doctors. I've got great people who are taking care of me, and then of course I've got an amazing nurse who's doing just taking great care of me as well. And so I'm very thankful. But I'm so appreciative of all of you who've reached out, the sweet cards that you've sent. I'm very grateful for that. Tomorrow, some of my doctor appointments will be reading the MRIs. So excited to kind of see what comes of that. But I want to get right into our Sunday night huddle. Oh man, Carl, good to see you, brother. I'm going to get right into this because there are some truths that I think will make a big difference in your life and business this week. And it brought up some stories that are kind of like morality type things or ethics in business. And I think it's going to be very thought-provoking. So feel free to interact with me as you can. Proverbs 11 and then verse 18. The wicked worketh a deceitful work, but to him that soweth righteousness shall be a sure reward. So this is really interesting. The wicked worketh a deceitful work. It's like, what's new? There's nothing that should not be surprising. You know, whenever a bad apple does something bad, it shouldn't surprise you. When the person at work does something that is wrong or unethical, it should not surprise you, because that's what people with that nature do. It reminds me of the childhood story that you heard with the scorpion and the frog. And the point is, scorpions sting. That's what they do. And so the wicked worketh a deceitful work, but to him that soweth righteousness shall be a sure reward. So I find it very interesting that the contrast to the person that does wrong, a wrong person's going to do wrong, but to him that soweth righteousness shall be a sure reward. This really is a version of you reap what you sow. You're going, whatever you sow, that you're going to reap. You cannot get an apple tree by planting oranges, by planting, and vice versa. You're not going to have a tree that bears oranges when you plant apple seeds. That's just not the way it works. What goes in must come out. That's why with our speech, how you talk, how you communicate, the very words you use is only based upon your input. Melody, so good to see you. Thank you so much. Your prayers meant a lot to me and your encouragement. Just so much appreciate that. So what goes in determines the input determines the output. Do you know I can tell whenever someone has been around certain people? So and people vice versa, they can do the same thing with me. If I'm around certain friends, for example, Chelsea may be able to know who I was around based on the type adjectives I use or how I describe things or even the tone that I use. Same thing at work. You can always tell who people are spending time with based on the kind of conversation that they're having. And so the input determines the output. What you sow is what you're going to reap. You sow kindness, you're going to that's what the reward is going to be. And so that's why people who have too many things wrong and too much oppression, it's one of those things where there's smoke, there's fire. Because if there's someone is saying that they're sowing goodness and kindness and they're doing what's right, but yet the only thing they seem to ever reap is the whirlwind, then it does cause for you should take pause. because it says, but him that soweth righteousness shall be a sure reward. So, the only way to guarantee success, the sure reward, is to sow goodness, to sow things that are right. You invest in the right things. You invest in the right people. You invest in the right equipment. You invest in the right processes. You invest in the right learning. You read, you study, you just grasp it, and soak in everything you possibly can to learn and to be the very, very best at what you do. And that's, it doesn't say you might get a reward. It says there shall be a sure reward. It is a guaranteed reward. You cannot do right without getting right rewards. The flip side is also true. You cannot do wrong indefinitely and get right results. The problem is there's this facade, especially in business. Think Enron, think Bernie Madoff. You people do wrong, they get massive results, and so they think it's okay to keep doing wrong. And that's the fallacy of the wicked work of the deceitful work, but to him that soweth righteousness shall be a sure reward. When you do what's right, that is the only way to guarantee your success. The second thing, as righteousness tendeth to life, which is, I could just stop right there. If righteousness tends to life, that means the best chance you have at a wonderful life is to do what's right. As righteousness tendeth to life. So it tends to life. It doesn't guarantee life. It doesn't mean if you do what's right that you're never going to have problems. It doesn't say that at all. It just says you're going to have a more peaceful life. You're going to have a better life, a higher quality life. And so I think that's important to understand because some people always say, well, I constantly attract this type of guy. I always attract these type of circumstances. This kind of thing always seems to happen to me. Have you ever heard people use these words? That's just my luck. And they expect the worst. They expect something that's wrong, something that happens to them to have negative repercussions. And that's not what this is saying at all. As righteousness tendeth to life. So if you expect the negative, then you are implying that you are not living in a right manner or in a moral, ethical, kindness, goodness, doing what's right and pleasing to Him kind of a life. Because if you were, the proverb says that kind of life, if you live that way, if you treat people right and you take care of people and you love the Lord and you do what is right to the best of your ability and your knowledge, this says it tends to life. And everything that comes with that, just life. Obviously, your health is a part of that. It tends to the quality of life, the experiences you have. And then the rest of that proverb says, so he that pursueth evil pursueth it to his own death. Pursuing evil is an interesting concept because there are some people, and you might have them in the workplace, that actually pursue evil. They look for it. They search it out. They're trying to see what kind of trouble they can get in. They are trying to see how close to the line they can get, and they may not even mind crossing it. There are people who try to get, as evil as he that pursueth evil. There are people that consciously pursue evil. Stay away from people who pursue evil. People who are headed down a wrong path, you want to stay away from. It's the exact opposite of what this proverb is saying. As righteousness tendeth to life, the polar opposite of righteousness tendeth to life is he that pursueth evil pursueth it to his death. It does not say that you're an evil person. It's not calling you evil. It's just saying he that pursueth evil pursues it to his own death. One of the challenges today is we have all these labels. And it really bothered me when I ran for the Senate because people tried to pigeonhole me. And one of the things that they really liked about the way I ran was that as much as different groups tried, they could not pigeonhole me into with a certain label. And I think that's important, because there's really only two directions here. As righteousness tendeth life, so he that pursueth evil pursueth it to his own death. You're going to be in one camp or the other. And so to guarantee your success, there's only one that tends to life, and one definitely ends in death. So if even this could be the death of your business, the life of your business, the health of your business, whether it succeeds or continues or not. Righteousness tendeth to life. He that pursueth evil pursueth it to his own death. There are people who pursue entertainment. There are people who pursue pleasure. There are people who pursue distraction, like entertainment. I mean, last night's fight was really big. There are people who they live for that kind of thing, as opposed to living for Sunday or living for when they can kind of restore their soul. And those two things give you different kinds of life. That's why when you're choosing a mate, you have to be really careful. You have to choose them based on, are they prone to seek life, or are they prone to kind of chase the next shiny thing and pursuing evil and pursuing what is wrong? Because if they are prone to do that, then your life is going to be prone to either life or prone to death. It's going to be prone to success or prone to failure, prone to financial wealth and prone to debt, based on which track people choose to go. The next proverb: though hand join in hand, the wicked shall not be unpunished, but the seed of the righteous shall be delivered. So, I really like this, because especially with the accident that I had a week and a half ago, the seed of the righteous shall be delivered. I believe that when you do what is right, and as a child of God, that there is a protection on your life. And I think that you can lose that protection, and you at least put it at jeopardy when you are off of the right path. And this proverb says, the seed of the righteous shall be delivered. So, and by the way, in order to be delivered, it means you have to be in something. So one of the things that baffles people is whenever bad things happen to good people, a lot of times they immediately say, oh, well, something must be wrong, or they must be doing this. And it never says, you'll never have a problem. It says you will be delivered. So in order to be delivered, it means you've got to be in the fire. I mean, you're going through some stuff. And but the righteous will be delivered through it. The next one. Oh, but I wanted to say one thing on that proverb. It says, though hand join in hand, the wicked shall not be unpunished. This is unbelievable, and I'd never noticed this before. It says, though hand join in hand, that the wicked won't go unpunished. What's fascinating to me about that is that they say misery loves company. Wrongdoers love company too, though hand join in hand. So usually when someone's going to go do something wrong, they don't do it by themselves. If they're going to go rob a bank, they're not going to do it by themselves. If somebody in your workplace is going to scheme against you, they're usually doing it with a couple other people. Maybe it's a couple other sales people. Maybe it's somebody in operations, somebody in accounting. Though hand join in hand. Evil, there is a genius to evil, and this part says that it's not just going to be one person, it's a team. So when you find one person that is not doing right, and you know to be wary of that based on what we've talked about, you have to be very careful, because this proverb says they're not alone. They're not alone. They usually operate together. Though hand join in hand, the wicked shall not be unpunished, but the seed of the righteous shall be delivered. I'm telling you, I don't mind going through trials and tribulations. I just want to know that I'm going to be taken care of through it. And this proverb says that the seed of the righteous shall be delivered. So you can count on that one. As a jewel of gold in a swine's snout, so is a fair woman which is without discretion. Well, now this is interesting. A jewel of gold in a swine's snout. I think one of the first things I think of when I see this is that's not normal. Like, that's kind of out of place. If I took Chelsea's diamond ring and that was in a pig's snout, I would really quickly be trying to get that back out, because that is totally out of place. I'd be like, I'm trying to figure out what's happening here. Like, what is that ring doing in that pig's snout? The two just don't go together. And so this word picture says, as a jewel of gold in a swine's snout, so is a fair woman which is without discretion. Have you ever, and this has happened to me a lot, there are people that I've respected in business. I remember at the Fortune 500 company, this guy that I really respected, I thought he was just really had it all together. And I remember going on a client visit with him. And after, we were up in the Northeast, and after we got done visiting the client, we ended up seeing this, we ended up visiting together, and I was really shocked by how he responded to some things and how he carried on. He ended up having too much to drink. He ended up using language that he had never used before. He really embarrassed himself. And it reminded me of this particular proverb that says, as a jewel of gold in a swine's snout, so is a fair woman which is without discretion. So here's this man all dressed up in a suit, all businesslike, and there's foul language, there's inappropriate jokes, there's alcohol flowing, and it's just like this. These two things just don't mix. And it was really out of place. And then the other time is I have a friend that that this is one of his biggest challenges is discretion, a lack of discretion. And it says a fair woman that is without discretion is like it's so out of place because you're a fair woman and a lack of discretion. So as a jewel of gold in a swine's snout. So if you want to be successful and guarantee success, just like the previous proverb told us, one of the main ways of doing that is being careful about who you become. Discretion is one of the most underutilized business terms in corporate America today. When was the last time someone, your boss, said, let's work on our discretion? In fact, the only time the word discretion is used today is usually when someone is cheating on somebody, right? They are usually saying, we want to have, let's be discreet, let's have discretion. Discretion means that it implies there's wisdom, it is discernment. Discretion is the ability to discern not just right and wrong, but better and best. In this situation, with this set of facts, do we use this color? Do we launch this product? Do we use this ingredient? Do we make this strategic move? Or do we make this one over here? Discretion to a wise business person is everything. And when you make a judgment call or a decision that is counterintuitive to everything that you say you represent, that's what we refer to as a lack of discretion. Right? So if someone has a lack of discretion, this proverb said, it is like a jewel of gold in a swine's snout. Have you ever done something and maybe your parents or your boss, or when you were growing up, or your boss now, or a friend, they just were like, that's really unlike you. Like, I'm kind of surprised that you did that, or I'm surprised that you said that. What they're really saying is that it was like a fair woman that's without discretion. You have a jewel of gold in a pig's snout. is what they're saying. It's just really out of place. It's the fish out of water. So if you want to be successful, part of the sowing goodness to get that sure reward, part of that is having good discretion. Have discretion. What are some areas that we should have discretion in? We should have discretion on who we associate with. We have to have discretion as to, and there's a couple things there. They say you are or soon will be who your friends are. Your income's going to be the average of your 5 closest friends. Whenever I first heard that, I thought, man, I need some new friends. But you know what I found out? The people who were where I wanted to be, I couldn't just jump in their friend circles because I didn't think the way they thought yet, and they only wanted to be around people who thought that way. So I had to do a lot of catching up. I had to do a lot of reading. I had to do a lot of personal growth, and it was lonely. Very lonely, very hard road. You can't outsource it. You can't delegate it. And I think that that's really interesting. Thank you, guys. I really think that's interesting because, the kings in Israel used to have to write out the book of the law. And they weren't able to delegate that. So they delegated everything. They delegated people to wash them every day and bathe them and clothe them and everything and taste their food before they ate it to make sure they're not poisoned. I mean, they delegated absolutely everything. But there was one thing that the king of Israel was not able to delegate, and that is they were not able to delegate the writing of the law. So there is something that you can't delegate, and that is discretion. You have to cultivate a sense of discretion. There's nothing worse than a leader that lacks discretion. Doesn't it drive you nuts when either in the sports arena or the political arena, when there is a lack of discretion? It makes you just shake your head. You almost want to lose faith in humanity because it's so frustrating. That's exactly what this proverb is talking about. As a jewel of gold in a swine's snout, so is a fair woman which is without discretion. The next proverb: the desire of the righteous is only good, but the expectation of the wicked is wrath. I think The Secret was a really popular book and movie several years ago, and I was in the sequel to The Secret, the movie, with Brian Tracy. And, Christians especially really struggled, what's the in-between? I know that really there's it's based loosely on some biblical principles, but how does a Christian view that, or what's the right way to look at it? And I think this verse, you've also heard do you view it as the glass half empty or the glass half full? Well, this verse kind of talks about the right perspective. So we've talked about discretion, and now we're talking about kind of viewpoint and world outlook. Are you basically a positive person, or are you a negative person, or how do you tend to think? And this is the desire of the righteous is only good. So those who at least you're always looking on the bright side of things. You understand the downside, you understand what's at risk, but the natural tendency is to see good. The natural tendency is to think increase. When it comes to money, there are a lot of people. In fact, they're mostly poor people. Most wealthy people do not have this viewpoint towards money. But most people who don't have money, they view it with scarcity. And if you have $1 million or several $1 million, they think that you have their money. There's a highly popular figure out there right now that's taken the personal development, kind of the Tony Robbins space, and really getting a lot of his folks. And he literally has done some live streams in the last few weeks. And it's really kind of in your face, really aggressive. And he always says, he's walking around, going, who's got my money? Who's got my money? And he gets in his Rolls Royce and it's like, who's got my money? And I remember thinking, it just hits me really wrong when I hear who's got my money. Like you're out to take something from somebody. And this says that the desire of the righteous is only good. Look, there's enough for me. There's enough for you. And if you came into $10 million tomorrow, it's not taken away from me at all. There's not just a finite amount of resources so that you can't get yours and that you can't succeed. And if somebody else gets theirs, you're not able to get yours. That's not how it works at all. And I think the next proverb really it says that beautifully. There is that scattereth and yet increaseth. And there is that withholdeth more than is meet, but it tendeth to poverty. And I'm going to end on this one because this is one of the best things as a business owner. It's one of the best principles that you can do when it comes to financial success. You've heard that you will, whatever you want, you have to first give away. If you're wanting kindness, you must be kind to more. If you want people to be generous with you, you have to be generous more. And it's not a one-to-one ratio. It's a way of life. It's not a tactic. It's not a strategy. It has to become you to where there's no ulterior motives for what you do and why you do it. And so what I love about this, there is that scattereth and yet increaseth. There's people who constantly are giving. They give. They're super generous people. And then have you ever noticed that they keep getting in return? You've heard it said, the more I give, the more I get. Well, people aren't giving to get. It's just a byproduct of the principle. And the ones who give the most because they just can't stop giving because they're that generous are the ones that just keep getting and they couldn't stop even if they wanted to. The best illustration of this or one that comes to mind is Starbucks. I love coffee and I enjoy it, and I have Starbucks that I can afford to buy the Starbucks every day, but we have Starbucks that whenever we go to, they don't let us pay. Now, is that because we can't afford it? Or is that because that we've just given so much to these people over and over and over and over again? Sometimes not even monetarily, just of ourselves, of our love, of our kindness, of our generosity, of being sweet. And so, I like that, Emerson. Yes, giving wholeheartedly. Give and expect nothing in return. Man, that's good. And so we give, we've poured into them, and then they are generous to us. We never asked, we never expect, we still don't expect. If they started charging us full price tomorrow, that's wonderful, that's okay. We didn't expect to get anything when we give, and we don't stop giving even if we stop getting, because it is a way of life. There is that scattereth and yet increaseth. You keep giving, you keep spending, you keep giving. It doesn't say you keep spending. That's what I started to say a second ago. It doesn't say you keep spending and you keep getting. I mean, you keep giving. And yes, it works monetarily. You cannot be too generous when it comes to giving. Now, granted, you need to be smart about it, but if you want to give more, that should empower you and inspire you to work more and to earn more and to be of more value to more customers and to more people so that you can earn more, so that you can give more. There is that scattereth and yet increaseth. And there is that withholdeth more than is meet, but it tendeth to poverty. So the one that just kind of holds it and hoards it, it says, look, you're more likely to be poor. So the more you hold on to it, the less you actually have. So it's kind of like this. It's like the story of the talent, actually. But if you've got $1,000 today, if you hold on to that, and you don't give any of it, you just keep it to yourself, then every year, just with the annual inflation rate, you're going to lose 3 to 5%. You're losing every year you hold on to it. In 10 years, you've got a fraction. In 20 years, $1,000, or 20 or 30 years, it might be the equivalent of $100. So the more you hold, the less you have. And it doesn't make sense. If I have 5 apples, if I hold on to those 5 apples, then wouldn't I still have 5 apples? But that's not what this is saying. Yeah, Brooke, that's right. This is honestly the way you humbly treat those whom work alongside you. Yeah, absolutely. This is exactly how to do it. And Brooke, to your point, information. This bugs me about people, actually, and especially about consultants. They really think that, their ideas or what their service. And so if they're in consulting, they're like, well, I'm going to give you that answer once you hire me, or I'm only going to tease you and give you a little bit of it so that you have to buy my product or buy my service, and then I'll give you the rest of it. And that's fine if that's what they want to do, but I'm just saying that that's the opposite of the way that the Proverbs kind of teach us to build a business. And most of them are starving. The ones who sometimes hold the tightest line on that have the least. I can tell you firsthand that that's exactly what it is with speakers. We had speakers on the CEO cruise, and we don't compensate them. They are on there because they believe in the mission and they want to pour into the entrepreneurs and speak into the CEOs' lives. But whenever I talk to a couple speakers that are highly paid. They're $20,000-$30,000 speakers per speech, and they were just like, I had one that just was flabbergasted and was like, well, I don't speak for free, and I wanted to laugh because I understand what they mean, but what they don't understand is they are about to get in front of 200 companies that may be hiring public speakers over the next year, and they've got a captive audience for 5 days, 4 nights with a CEO of that company. Things you can't ever, especially on their limited speaker budget and the marketing budget, could never get in front of these people. And so they don't understand the principle of giving. There is that scattereth and can't even and gets more than they need. And then there's those that hold on to the little bit that they have, and it's not enough. It just leads to poverty. So whether it's money, whether it's information, I'm only going to tell you part of what I know, and then make you thirsty, and then you ask for more. The problem, by the way, with people who do that as well is we're usually disappointed when you give us the rest of the story. We're usually disappointed. You really didn't hold back all that much. The King's Ransom, your secret sauce, really was pretty common sense. And so I can tell you that the people where I've bit and taken that bait in the past, I was usually disappointed and I never did business with them again. So I want to end on that. You can never go wrong being generous. I could tell you all night the times that I was more generous than what I needed to be. I remember a billing error that we had in 2008, and it was a relationship a company that I'd worked really hard to get the contract. The guy had built. He was very well known in the healthcare industry. Top 10 most influential people in healthcare, in People Magazine, all these other things. And I had started working with him one-on-one. We started off at lunch, and he said, "Hey, would you come by the office now?" Went to the office, and he said, "What do you think about our branding? And what do you think about our website? What do you think about how we're doing this?" And he had several hundred employees at that time, and so he's walking me all through this. And he said, "I want you to be a consultant to me and to the business, but I want you to help advise me on what we should do on some of these fronts. And then I'm going to let you work with the different people in the different departments to make it happen." So, and he said, "I'm going to compensate you, whatever is right." And I was just starting off with some of these extra kind of things. And so I agreed to it. And I just wanted to work with him. I mean, I really respected the guy. And, but anyway, we came to where we had agreed on a monthly amount. Of retainer, and they paid the first one. Well, the second month, when I invoiced them for the second month, they paid it, and he said, I didn't know we were going to do this every month. I thought it was just for a couple months." And so I guess it might have been the third month, but that had never been said or never communicated. So they paid it, but they did not want to continue. And I said, well, hang on. I don't want money to be an issue, number one. So the first thing I'm going to do, and it was $10,000, not $7,500. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give you $10,000. I'm going to write you a check for $10,000, and let's keep working together, because the money is not the issue. The relationship is. And I remember giving that guy his $10,000, writing a check to him for $10,000, and he said, in whatever it was, 40 years of doing business, I've never had a vendor or a partner like that write me a check whenever they were in the right and there was just confusion on our end. And I said, well, because it's absolutely not worth it to me. And so those are that's the way generosity needs to flow in a number of different areas. And I can tell you, if it ever becomes about the almighty dollar to you, you're going to lose with people. No matter who it is, no matter what business you're in, you could be in you could be in the service business, you could be in the food business. When the dollar is more important than how you treat customers and how you treat people, you will lose as a business owner. So we talked about discretion, and I want you to have good discretion. Be careful who you hang around. Be careful, the kind of pictures you take. Be careful, the compromising situations that you put yourself into. Be careful about the words that you speak, and be careful about what the input that you allow yourself to read, to watch on TV, to look at online, because all of that. Here's the thing: you think it's secret. You think you're looking at stuff online or on TV or whatever, but it always comes out. Even if it doesn't come out in words, it comes out in your attitude. It comes out in your spirit. And people can't sometimes always put their finger on it, but they feel it, they sense it. And Emerson, you're exactly right. It's guilty by association. We have so much incoming today that we have to make quick decisions about people. We have to decide how far we're willing to go or invest in a relationship. And a lot of times the only thing we have to go on is what we know about the people they associate with. So if on Facebook, I guarantee you do not accept friend requests from somebody that has zero mutual friends. Like if you've got some mutual friends, you're like, okay, it's this person, this person, and this person. They're commendable. They're respectable. I'm going to accept your friendship. That's what I do. And unless they send me a note or something like that, we have to have mutual friends, and I kind of want to know that they're the kind of friends that I want to see their stuff. By the way, that's why it is so important who you have on your social media. You may not be going to coffee with them and having lunch with them and working with them on a daily basis, but ladies and gentlemen, it's input. When you're scrolling through that feed, you don't need to see half of the horrible stuff or wrong thinking that you see. It will affect you. You cannot look at that for hours a day, day after day after day, year after year, and think you're better than that. None of us are. None of us are. And quite frankly, that's a lack of discretion. Exercise discretion in how you use your time, in what you listen to, what you look at, what you listen to, what you allow as input in your life. Exercise that discretion. Well, we've been talking about how to guarantee success, and you saw it in black and white that there is a way to get a sure reward, and that's not me saying it. It's a guaranteed reward, and it's putting Him first. It's doing what's right. It's treating people the way you want to be treated. It's exercising discretion, which means making good decisions, using good judgment, and then giving, being generous with people. I cannot overemphasize being generous with time, being generous with your compliments. One of the things that I vowed a few years ago was whenever I thought a positive thought about somebody, to tell them. Because they may be telling themselves a lot of bad things about themselves or not liking what they see in the mirror. But if and I even said it today, whenever I said, you look pretty today, I like your hair today, or things like that. Because if you don't, you want to be kind, compliment people, but just make it a way of life. If it comes to your mind and it's positive and it's uplifting and edifying, be generous. Be generous with people. And it's amazing how far that will go, even in business. So I hope you all have a great week. I'm looking forward to a great week with the doctors. And I'm going to be easing back into business this week, and I'm excited about that. And we have a lot of exciting things coming up. I've got the outline for my speech at Harvard on September 20th. I hope many of you can join me there. I think it would be fantastic. We'll have a great time. I'll be keynoting that afternoon, and there's over 20 nations with senior officials representing those countries that'll be there, and a number of entrepreneurs, CEOs, executives. One of them is a former Viacom executive. We have a current Dunkin' Donuts the SVP of International Development for Dunkin' Donuts. A guy from from Bloomberg and Fox News are the moderators for a panel that I'll be sitting on as well. So it's going to make for a very interesting day. And so if you're able to be in Boston on September 20th, I'd love to have you. And I also want to remind you about the CEO cruise. It was really exciting because I got to do a video call with some folks in Africa, about 4 or 5 different countries. Thank you so much, Christine. It's great to hear from you. I did a Skype with people from Rwanda, Uganda, Kenya, South Africa, and I'm forgetting some of the others. But anyway, it was just phenomenal. And they're going to be on the CEO Entrepreneur Cruise January 28th through February 1st. You only have through August 31st, so like 3 or 4 more days to get your deposit in if you're going to make payments on the CEO Cruise. You can reserve your spot on the cruise for $150 at ceocruise.com, and then you can pay that off in whatever timing and increments you want to between now and November 22nd. So it allows you to just pay as what you want whenever you want. And then the second option is just after from September 1st on, it'll be $7.99 at least through for the next month or so. And then in October, I think the prices will probably bump up a little bit. So I hope that you can plan on joining us on the CEO Cruise. That's going to be phenomenal. Working with the inventor of the Happy Meal wants to be on there and speaking, and we're talking to a guy right now who we're praying about how to work with him to be able to be on there. But he founded and is CEO of the largest promotional products company in the world for decades. He does a lot of executive leadership coaching for Fortune 500 companies around the world now. A second company that does that. Absolutely phenomenal. I was able to have breakfast with him recently for 2.5, 3 hours. So it was just an absolute incredible time. Emerson, I appreciate it. Thank you so much, brother. So anyway, those are the things that are going on. I'll be on this Friday, planning on having a Skype, a live call with the folks in Africa. There's about 20 of them that are planning at this point on coming on the CEO Cruise. So we're just going to have an incredible group of people that you're going to be able to spend some time with. So make sure you go check that out. And my prayer is that you prosper and that you have great success, but that you would not have it by doing the wrong thing. That you'll do the right things, and that your hard work and you doing it the right way will pay off. And the other great thing about making money or getting ahead or achieving success when you do it the right way is it adds no sorrow to it. There's no sorrow that comes with it. Most people that acquire a lot of wealth, especially whenever that gain is unseemly, if you do it the wrong way, it's going to come with sorrow. It's going to come with legal bills, just extensive legal bills. I remember one of the companies that I became the CEO of, they had 72 lawsuits whenever I took over the company, and I took it down to 2 lawsuits. It took me about 1.5 years. And it was so incredible because if you want to have a smooth life, a joyous life, a wealthy life, without it adding sorrow to it, then you have to do right. Sow the right thing so that you can reap it. And that's really what we want to see. I want you to have the success. I want you to have all the wealth in the world without the sorrow. And that's possible. It's very possible. It's rare. It's rare. But it's only rare because of how you get it. And that's why we talk about what we do here and with the Business Battleground, is because there's a right way to do it. And by the way, you'll have more friends, you'll have more supporters, You'll have people who are loyal to you. I mean, fiercely loyal to you. I can't even begin to tell you what loyalty means to me. Loyalty is everything to me. I don't care if you like me. I don't care if you love me. I do care if you respect me, and I care if you're loyal to me. And the moment someone is not loyal to me is the moment they no longer have access in my life. I cannot stand disloyalty because I'm not always going to do right. I'm not always going to be right. I'm not always going to say the right thing or do the right thing. But what I at least want is know me well enough to know that my intentions were pure. Know me well enough to know that I would never willingly hurt you or do something against you or another human being or an animal or any living thing for that matter. I am not an intentionally malicious person. So when someone makes a decision and is disloyal, or they listen to someone talking bad about you, and then without telling you or without defending you, it's one thing. It's not even if someone sits there and listens to someone speak negative about you. That's even disloyal. What's loyal is defending that person. If someone right now started talking to you about your mom, even though she's not here, there's not a guy, that I know that would not start defending their mom. But she's not there. They wouldn't just be quiet and just let it kind of go on and then just say, well, Mom, I couldn't believe they said this, this, and this, and this about you. You'd be like, you stop talking about my mother right this very second. Or your wife, men. Some of you would be like that. Or some of you wives. Oh, Mama Bear come out. You start talking about her kids. You start talking about her man. Mama Bear's coming out. You do not talk about them. And you wouldn't have it. You know why? Because you're loyal. I take this in the business world. I only want loyal employees. Now, and then when they're disloyal, then I'll make business decisions based on that. But if they're disloyal to me and as their employer, even if they work for another company and they are being disloyal to their current employer, thinking they're getting in my good graces, that doesn't get in my good graces, because if they're disloyal to their current employer, they're going to be disloyal to me. It's kind of the whole thing. If they'll cheat with you, they'll cheat on you. It's the same thing in business. It's the exact same thing. So loyalty is everything. And it goes beyond just not cheating and doing right by them. Loyalty is defending. Defending. Would you really be okay for your closest friends, people just bad-mouthing you, just slamming you to your friends, and them not saying a word, them not defending you at all? You wouldn't be okay with that. You know why? Because you've been in those conversations. You've heard it. You've got somebody in your mind right now that you're thinking about, and you heard them say, they started going on and on and on about somebody, and guess what? Nobody just sits there with a blank stare going, They don't do that. You know what they do? They go, oh, seriously? Really? Now, all I did was say the word really. But my expression, my tone, was sending a broad message like, I can't believe they did that. Did they really? Oh my, that's juicy. Tell me more. My reactions are spurring that kind of dialogue on. So that's not loyalty. That's not loyalty. Loyalty is somebody who's going to defend you in your absence. Loyalty is somebody who sticks up for you. And not because you're perfect, because you're not. I'm not. But because they know who you are. Because you've proven, not only have you proven yourself, but you haven't, but you have the right spirit. You're worthy of being defended. You're worthy. You're someone worth being loyal to. So that's my question for you this evening. Are you someone that's worth being loyal to? Are you worthy of that kind of fierce loyalty? I can tell you, if you follow the Proverbs we talked about tonight and you have discretion, you exercise good judgment, you make good decisions, you give and live generously, you won't have a problem in the world with people being loyal to you. So one of the things that, let's see here, Brooke. She says, have a standard for oneself and be true to you. Something you taught me so many years ago. Oh man, yes, Brooke. We had a great. Brooke was my assistant, and we worked together closely with a technology company. Took that company from basically 2.7 million to over 40 million in 22 months. And man, she was in the thick of it with me. And you know, even in the midst of chaos and high growth revenue like that, we still treated people right. We still were loyal. We still were generous with people, even with time, but with our words. There are so many times we could have taken shortcuts, and we chose to do the hard work of sowing the right seed, using good discretion, good judgment, and obviously it paid off massive dividends. I also want to give my prayers and love and support to those in Texas that are suffering. I mean, living in Florida, certainly understand the hurricanes and you know what all you're going through when it comes to flooding. I was evacuated 2 or 3 times when I was living on Pensacola Beach. Twice in Portofino, and once when I lived in another tower. I came in from a business meeting, flew in, and I had they had closed the island down at 5 o'clock, and my flight landed at 5:30. So I couldn't even get on the island to get my stuff because I'd been gone for over a week. And so I know how tough it is and what you're going through. I can tell you one thing: just make sure you seek Him first. You know, it'll drive you to your knees, and hold on to those that you love. That's more important than absolutely anything, anything in this world. So you hold on to those that you love. Draw close during this time with the lights out and no distractions, no TV, not enough light to read or whatever else. Spend time with each other. Talk with each other. Get to know your family at levels that you've never known before. Stay safe. Hopefully you evacuated, but regardless of what your situation, where you are, I'm praying for you, your homes, and any damage that you need to bounce back from. I can tell you that usually these type of things, communities really bounce back strong. So our love and thoughts and prayers are certainly with you at this time. I hope everyone has a great week. And I see Ty and Stacy. Happy birthday, Stacy! I saw that you had a birthday today, and such sweet parents. And you talking about discretion and a great testimony and great success there in the mountains of West Virginia. I love her brother and I love his ministry, Scott Pauley. You can check him out. He's just doing a great work, and that's part of what I was talking about with loyalty. But you follow people long enough, you know when they're the real deal, and I appreciate that. Charles, good to see you, buddy. And this is an engineer. He actually donated his car to our faith-based nonprofit organization, The Prompting. And he's working as an engineer for a large defense contractor, and he's keeping us all safe. There's no doubt about that. I'm sure he'd have to kill me if he told me what he was working on. So, but I love you guys, and thank you so much for your love, support, and prayers for my healing. And I cannot even begin to tell you the kind of miracles that I believe have happened in my body because of good people praying. So hope you all have a blessed week, highly favored, super prosperous, and let's see how God uses us this week. We'll talk to you soon.